Hey, let's get started. I'm Allison Meredith with Holston and Garner IT, and we're just delighted to have you with us today for a little lunchtime webinar. So if you haven't already, please grab your sandwich, grab a drink, and we're just going to be spending 15 minutes together. Today's topic is what to do, how to think through when you are planning to give your kid or your teenager a screen for Christmas. I am sure a lot of us out there in our shopping list have some kind of a screen for one or more of our kids or teenagers. And so I have some special guests with me today. This is Sylvia Meredith and Nicholas Meredith. And yes, there is a relationship. So I'm going to ask them to tell you a little bit about themselves, where they go to college, and just that quick summary. And then I'll tell you why I invited them and what they have to add to our conversation.
So my name is Sylvia, and I'm the oldest. I've got a couple years on Nick, and Allison is my mom, obviously, but I go to ETSU, and I'm currently majoring in chemistry.
And yes, I'm Nick. I'm Sylvia's younger brother. I am also at ETSU. I am majoring in finance, and I just finished my first semester, so I'm middle of my freshman year.
Fantastic. And I invited these two to be with us today because they are digital natives. So let me go ahead and share my screen and tell you kind of the big idea of what we're going to talk about today and why you're going to want to hang on for the full 15 minutes. And by the way, go on and type comments into the chat or into Facebook if you're looking at Facebook Live. Abby is monitoring that for us. And let me just talk through. Let's see if I can share this. So we're going to be doing a 10 session series. So if you join us again, we'd love to have you register, and we'll let you participate. Give us your questions. Today, we just want to talk about your own mindset as parents and how that's going to help you succeed in all these conversations, how you can inspire your teenagers and kids to want to talk with you, and then what you need to be listening for. So I wanted to launch right into this explanation of what it means, digital immigrants versus digital natives. So I am like most of you parents. I didn't grow up with a smartphone. I hardly grew up with a computer. We had them, but it wasn't a big deal. And so we just have a different mindset, very different from what our kids are experiencing. So Nick and Sylvia, I'm going to punt to you here for a minute and just say, talk a little bit about that and what you've observed in different generations talking about managing screen time. Nick, I'm going to point to you first.
Well, generationally, some of my friends have like younger cousins or younger siblings, and when I go hang out with them, I see a way that they can, I don't want to say get the kids out of the way so that the more grown-up kids can play, but a way to distract the kids while we're playing, a way for them to be entertained is a phone or a laptop. And that's definitely different. That's not what I grew up with, at least. And I don't know, but that's one thing.
Okay.
Well, one thing I've observed is that it is new technology and changes in technology are very intuitive. Our generation's used to adapting and clicking buttons and figuring things out on the computer, and maybe your generation just has not had the same practice in figuring things out in regards to technology all the time. So I noticed that, for example, maybe you get pretty frustrated, Mom, when the email starts working differently and you're like, I just figured this out. So that's one thing I've noticed, quicker adaptations to change. And I think that just comes with every age and every experience in general.
Right, exactly. So so with that, I think all of us as parents have to have in mind, some of us, let me say it differently, some of us have a pretty bad default. Some of us, and I'm actually in this group. When I was a young mom, I read the books that said, don't ever put your kids in front of a screen. It will ruin their brain. And consequently, my default assumption about screens is that, they're awful. So that's where I start. And I'm not there anymore, by the way, just to make clear. I no longer think screens are inherently awful, nor do I think they're going to rot your kids' brains. I do think they need to be managed. But I think I want to talk about mindset first, because we have to get straight in our heads that we as digital immigrants, yes, because of our age, we're older and wiser. I hope we are the parents in the room. But that doesn't mean just because we're in a different generation doesn't mean the younger generations just got it all wrong. It's just different. So with that, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to get your kids to talk. So Sylvia and Nick, tell me some things you've observed either in our family or in your friends' families that have worked or not worked to facilitate understanding among parents and their teenagers, or parents and their kids. And I'm talking about the parents that just want to understand, what games are my kids even playing? How are they even going to use this? Is this game okay? Is this digital chat okay? And then we're going to lead up to then, obviously, how can parents and kids have a productive conversation about limiting that screen time or limiting certain apps? But what in general have you observed, and I'll let Sylvia go first this time, just that works or doesn't work with parental communication with kids on these issues?
Well, this might be a little off topic, but one thing that I have noticed that is very helpful is when parents just cut straight to the point and are not afraid of being awkward and talking with their kids about what's important in terms of safety. And so, for example, just being open with your kids and straight up saying, hey, let's talk about if it's ever cool for you to share your home address to people online, or if it's ever cool to share pictures, or if it's ever cool to like talk about these specific things. And if you're able to talk to your kid about that in a non-condescending way, then you're going to, I guess, get you and your kid on the same team. If your kid can have a perspective of, oh, I'm not trying to fight against my mom on this, if you can just communicate to them deliberately about all these things, and they're going to learn it from you. And when they do encounter things like people who ask them for their home address, if that should ever happen, which
don't give it away.
Yeah, they'll be like, aha, I have outsmarted you, internet person. I would never do that. I know too much.
I know too much, yes. I'm a Meredith,
yeah.
or I am a Jones, or whatever, right? You want your kids to have that family identity where, oh yeah, my mom told me about you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, and I think my mom is going to talk about this, but listen to what they have to say, because that's a big part of making them feel like you're both on the same team.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Don't act like you know everything, even when you know more than they might think you do. That's
good.
That's a summary.
Yeah, no, that might be a good summary. Let's just go with that. And Nick, you know what, Nick, let's go with that. I'm going to ask you to chime in on the next thing. I'm going to hesitantly try to share my screen again without messing it up. Let's see if I can do that. I'm going to actually leave it here without full screen. So, you know, I just wanted to comment on the fact that our kids and our teenagers are beautiful and creative and childlike. They're also childish, right? And we know that they are. But let's see what we can do to encourage this part to grow and flourish. So beyond just saying, tell me about this and what's that, here are some secret sauce words. Now these really, they seem very simple. They are very simple. But instead of walking up behind your kid's back and say, what's that? That looks like a violent game. Is that a first-person shooter game? Blah, 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 blah. Hold back, Mom, hold back, Dad. Just say, hey, wow, seems like you're having fun. Now, if they're in the middle of playing, they're just going to go, right, Nick? Right, so because they're going to be playing. But then later in the day, you can say, seems like you were having fun. And they can say, yes. And you can say, well, it seems like, were you the purple guy? I mean, like, just, you can finish that sentence anyway, but here's what's great about that, those two words, it seems, is that it doesn't invite an argument. So you can say, it seems like there was a lot of violence in that game. And they're going to be like, well, not really, Mom. Or they can say, well, I guess maybe so. And versus, I think that game is violent. I mean, just using those two words. And by the way, I didn't make this up. It's a Chris Voss trick. Look him up. Chris Voss is a genius. And then the other phrase, please help me understand, is just kind of, it just helps you, again, to not be confrontational. Just, please help me understand, what's the goal of this game? Please help me understand why you like this game. And then I'm going to throw the ball to you, Nick. What do you think? I mean, do you kind of agree with that as good tips, or do you have anything to add?
I mean, it's sort of like what Sylvia was saying earlier. You want to get the kids on board on your in your boat, on your wagon, whatever. And those sorts of questions will help do that. You want to draw your kids into conversation, and you, as asking those questions, can help get them talking. it's much easier to support an idea and to be excited about a screen time policy or rules when you help contribute to the conversation. And so when you ask your kid, please help me understand this, this game that you've been playing. Please help me understand, what does this mean? Or please help me understand, what do you sort of do in that game? Or if you ask him, it seems like the way that you play is very high speed and very fast paced. That's what I'm looking for. And so when I interrupt you, does it frustrate you or anything like that? Or it seems like this is how the game works, or it seems, using those phrases helps draw them into conversation and draw them onto your wagon and to your boat.
No, that's great. I completely agree. And listen, if you're giving your kid a Kindle Fire or a new smartphone or anything with a screen, at the end of this week when we're having the Christmas celebration at the same time as this cultural thing that we all swap gifts, which is really fun. Anyway, so just like plan to have this conversation, not the moment they open the gift, of course, right? But just like within a day, sit down with them and say, not just now what we were just talking about was more like in the middle of while they're playing a game or whatever, and how do you engage them? But also this applies when you give them that gift and you want to say, gosh, it seems to me that we are all in this family. We understand that we don't want to be just staring at our devices all the time. And the kids will, yeah, I don't want to be like that. Well, please help me understand, what do you think is a reasonable time limit? How many hours a day or minutes a day, or should we have this app or not? Like, just draw them out. And I'll be posting a link to a white paper I wrote a year ago that actually has some suggested questions you can use in that conversation. But the big idea is just listen. So that's kind of the big idea for today. So let me, with that, punt over to Abby and see, do we have any questions?
Hey, we don't have questions, just a comment on Facebook. George mentioned that those are the sorts of questions that y'all were talking about, the it seems and so on, that express interest instead of judgment. And that's how you want to communicate to your kids, is to be interested and not automatically judgmental, which was a good comment.
That is a great comment. Thank you for that, George. That's absolutely right. And with that, let me just emphasize, kind of in conclusion, that you are the parent. We very much support that. So there is a place for just saying, do this now. This is your policy. But don't skip this step of listening, okay? Don't skip this step of listening to their ideas. Because like, say what George said again, Abby, that was a really good way to put it, that it's not judgmental.
So he said that those sorts of questions express interest instead of judgment.
Yes, and express interest instead of judgment. And so again, just to review, we just talked about getting your own mindset right, the difference between a digital immigrant and a digital native, and then inspiring them to want to talk to you. See, a lot of people, they just skip to this, just listen to them. You need to own inspiring them to want to talk to you, okay? And that's beyond what we could seemingly get to in a 15-minute session. But tomorrow we're going to dive into some specific apps you can use that are parental monitoring tools, what works or doesn't work, and get some more feedback from these digital natives about what they like or don't like about such apps. So with that, I'm happy to hang on for another minute or two, but our 15 minutes are up. So if there are no further questions, I think we'll call this a wrap and hope that y'all will join us again next time. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.